Hey everybody, it's Dave. Welcome to the Meniere's Experience. How y'all doing? Doing pretty good. Can't complain today. But excuse me, every now and then you got to do an update video because a lot of people don't really understand your story, your journey, right? So, and you got to update it sometimes because things change, right? So, let's start. Let's start from the beginning, okay? December 24th, 2014, Christmas Eve. I come home from Mass at 4 o'clock, getting ready to go back at 7 to sing, and I sit on my couch for a few minutes, turn on a football game, and next thing I know, I'm not feeling well. I'm like, wow, this is weird. I stand up. I can't walk. I can't stand. And everything is just spinning. Spinning like crazy. I didn't know what was going on. I literally thought I was dying. So, I went into the kitchen and I'm trying to help tell my wife what's going on. She's not understanding. Some people think I'm joking around. And there was a lot of people over. And finally, one of my sister-in-laws, who's a nurse, says, "Oh, it's a virus." And I'm sweating profusely as well. So I didn't go back to Mass. I went, they got me into bed. I couldn't hold anything down. I couldn't hold water down. It was coming right back up. It was awful. And that was my first vertigo attack. And I woke up the next day and I felt very weird. I didn't have the vertigo anymore, but very weird. But I was able, I participated in Christmas and everything. And then the next day I felt normal, except for some tinnitus that I had. I just was kind of like, what's this? Didn't bother me too much. So, about a week later, I'm driving my oldest son to AIT training at Fort Lee in Virginia. Drive down was fine, no problem. I was going to spend about 3 or 4 days there, just in case he needed me, and I wanted to tour the area because it's a very big Civil War battle that was over there. So we get down there. I checked in the hotel, woke up the next morning, went down and had breakfast. Everything was fine. I go back up to the room to pick up some things, and everything starts moving again. Another vertigo attack. What the heck's going on? So, what did I do? I rested. What else could I do? I just sat in the hotel room all day. The next day I felt better. I went out to tour the battlefields. All that stuff felt fine. Next day did it again. Felt fine. Then I drove home. In the snowstorm. But I drove home and I was fine. Excuse me. A couple of days later, when I got home, I was like, holy shit. It started all over again. So my wife takes me to the emergency care, or was it urgent care? And they're like, oh yeah, it could be. It's probably a virus or whatever. Here's some Flonase, here's this, here's that. Go home. And like 3 or 4 weeks later, now we're into 2015, it happened again. What the heck's going on? So we finally went to my doctor, primary care. He said it's probably BPPV. Did the Epley maneuver. I felt a little better, not much. Gave me a prescription for meclizine, had me, rest for a week and all that. I felt fine afterwards. And every time I would get a vertigo attack, I would do these exercises. And I would take meclizine. And everything seemed to be fine. The tinnitus was ramping up a little bit. But everything seemed to be fine. Yeah, and in the beginning, the tinnitus, I thought it was driving me crazy. It took a long time to get used to that. So then I went almost a year and a half without any issue. I noticed hearing loss in my left ear, but no other problems. And then 2017 hit. Middle of 2017, it all came back with a vengeance. So, my wife took me to the doctors. Again, he referred me to an ENT. First ENT thought I was crazy. The second ENT was more concerned about my nose. I don't know why. And then I got a referral for a third ENT. And he did an MRI. He lifted my symptoms and did an MRI, and he said, yeah, it's Meniere's disease. You don't have an acoustic neuroma or anything. Excuse me. And he handed me a bottle of Klonopin and said, have a nice lunch. I'm like, this isn't right. So I called him back like a couple of weeks later. I said, listen, I can't be taking Klonopin all day. So he was smart enough to say, I really don't know a lot about it, but I'm going to send you to another guy. Dr. Kasich. Great doctor. And he agreed with the diagnosis, and first we tried antivirals. Because I was already on a water pill for blood pressure. So we were going to try antivirals. And we did. And it didn't do anything. So we knew right off the bat it wasn't viral for me. So then we tried prednisone. Helped. Calmed it down a little bit. Vertigo. Then we did a steroid shot. That did somewhat help. But still wasn't calming anything down. Then we did 3 gentamicin shots in this ear. 3? No, 5. Sorry, 5. Did nothing. Absolutely nothing. So he's like, listen, I'm too old. I don't do surgeries, and I think that's what you need. So I want you to see this guy, Dr. Schneider, who was in his practice. Great doctor. He explained to me why the gentamicin and steroids weren't working in my left ear. Because this eardrum was so thick from infections and all kinds of stuff that the medicine was literally just being sopped up by it. Barely any of it was getting into my ear, in my inner ear. So he did the labyrinthectomy in 2019. And the labyrinthectomy is basically they cut behind the ear, they take out the labyrinth. That worked. That helped. It was a lot of work afterwards. It was a lot of vestibular therapy, all that stuff. But you know what? For a good part of 2021, 2020, 2021, 2022, it was great. I had no vertigo. Just deaf. And balance. I still would have been a liability at work. And I had stopped working in 2018 because I was a liability. And so yeah, those 3 years I was great. In 2023, Meniere's decided to move to my right ear. I started getting vertigo again. Now this ear is dead, so it's not coming from here. I started getting it here. Did all the same tests, everything. And at that point, Dr. Emmett Schneider had moved on to become the head surgeon at Boston Children's. And he sent me to his other partner, Dr. Chari. She's amazing. If you're in the Worcester area of Massachusetts, I can't recommend her enough. So we tried steroid shots, and they were actually helping in this ear. They were. And the vertigo, the attacks would come, but they weren't as bad, and they were less frequent, but they would still come. So I knew this ear, everything was working. So if I did gentamicin in this ear, I probably would have took care of it. But I couldn't do it because then I'd have no balance and I'd be deaf. So I'd be totally deaf. So then she talked about sac decompression surgery in this ear. And I had that done last May 2025. They cut behind and there's a little sac that's like a reservoir for the fluid. Shaved it down. So now the fluid drains down here. That's why a lot of times you hear me coughing. Because the fluid's actually coming down. like right now. Excuse me. So we did that, and literally one vertigo attack lasted about 15 minutes in the last year, in May, June, July, 14 months. One attack in 14 months. God bless him. Now, it just stops the vertigo, okay? And the ear fullness. I don't get the ear fullness so much in this ear. I still get it in this ear, surprisingly. But that stopped it. It was great. Okay? But one of the major problems was, and it wasn't from the surgery because it was before the surgery. They did my hearing test before the surgery. Before. It went from an 80%, which was done like a year before, down to 30. So after that, the surgery, and I did have cross hearing aids. She said, I recommend we do a cochlear on this side. Now, back in 2019, my doctor, Robert Schneider, didn't do that. Because I didn't qualify because I had good hearing on this side. So, I had the cochlear put in about 2 months after this surgery last year. About a year ago, around this time. And that's been a journey in itself. Okay? It's better every day. But voices are still kind of like, but I can make out the voices. I can make out what people are saying. It just doesn't sound like them yet, because they said it could take about 2 years. So for the last year, I've actually been pretty good when it comes to, Meniere's. And sure, I've had a fall. I fell in April and tore ligaments in my knee, in my leg, and in my hip. I had pulled a muscle. Still bothers me a little bit today, but that gets better every day too. But that's the whole story of it. But the one thing, if you notice, when you listen to this, what's the main thing? I didn't give up. And sure, there were days, especially in the beginning, from 2014 to 2020, I wanted to end it. I wanted to give up. I didn't care. Luckily, I was going through therapy at the same time, because I know I see a lot of posts. People say, I can't take it anymore. I wish God would just take me now. And God's not going to do that, if that's what you're thinking. But I fought. And I fought. Even then, when I wanted to give up, I still fought. And fought. And fought. And fought to this day. To this day. Wouldn't be where I am if I didn't. And I wouldn't be able to share my experience with you. So on that note, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great night. If you like what you see, please hit subscribe. Please watch my other videos too. I'm telling you, they're going to help you feel better about yourself. And maybe make some good decisions about how to keep fighting, how to live a life, even though you can't do a lot of other things. And I'll talk to you later.